welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend just a little bit of time talking about superlatives in the month of February. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Ted Bannock, and I love talking about superlatives. Bum, 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 bum.
And it looks like you love growing your beard out. Are you growing it out a little bit?
It does tend to grow with time, yes. That seems to be
the way.
The mechanic in which it causes it to flourish.
Time is a funny mechanic.
Yeah, Nissy, you're still holed up in your pandemic bunker, I assume, and I don't have to worry about you starving because you have enough tomato sauce to last. Yeah, there you go. Just have a drink. So I know that you're safe at least. So
yes, I am safe. If the zombies come in, I don't know if you've ever read the book The Road by Cormac McCarthy, but this is
I have done no such thing.
Do you know how to read, Ted?
Sometimes it's challenging.
It can be challenging. There was a movie. That was also The Road, but
I say that because so many times when a card gets revealed from the encounter deck, I'm very guilty of not reading the entire card because I'm like, oh, I know what this card does, but I don't.
I know.
So I'll read the first sentence and then forget to do whatever the last half of the treachery card does.
Yeah. I was not playing Tactics Mary to my fullest ability for the longest time because I never read the second part of that where he could ready. I just never did that. That I was like, oh my God, he's even better. It was totally wild. So,
yeah, it's good. That's good. I know we have another really great superlative episode. Dave has suggested that we have some really fun results to share. And, well, this is our last one, isn't it? Right? We're at the final sphere and the final card types.
Yeah, final sphere, final card types, final...
So all that's left is our surprise special episode
that we're going to release on Monday. So if you're listening and you're like, what's going on? It's our +1 that we've been talking about, which the patrons know. Most of the patrons know because I sent them out an email about it, but everybody else doesn't know. So it'll be interesting to see. Maybe the best. It's definitely the longest. If we're putting a superlative to the show, it's going to be released on Monday. That superlative is long, but it's great. It's great, but it's definitely.
I think it's the best episode I've ever recorded with you guys. I think it's going to be like Card Talk's best episode.
Oh, really?
It's up there. Oh, it's good. It's a really good episode. So
I think it's really good from soup to nuts too. Like it starts off in one direction and goes a different direction, and really. Then it ends after the closing credits. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Listen to that full episode.
Listen to the full episode, including the 4 minutes after.
We got this one to go through for our lore attachments and events, and it would not be made possible if it not were for our lore, our master of lore patrons.
Lortrons. I knew you were trying to.
Can you just read the patron list, please?
Yes, I'll read the Patreon list. So thank you to everybody who is a patron of the show, so that we can get to the actual content. Patrons, you guys help keep the lights on here at the podcast, especially in Superlative Month when we are doubling and tripling up on hosting fees because we're putting out a lot of content. We thank you for all that you do, and if you want to become a patron, join us right down here at patreon.com/cardtalk2018, and you can be eligible for a big swag, and everybody who by donating $5 a month or more, and then everybody, though, regardless of what level, you will be eligible for some sort of token of appreciation because you guys all deserve it. The list is 29 people long, and I will do it alphabetically by first name and I will do it all in one breath, as I have been doing for most of Superlative February. So you ready? Alex, Brandon, Carl, Chris, Daniel, David, Edmund, James, Jason, Joe, Joseph, Joshua, Justin, Kyle, Lewis, Matt, Micah, Mike, Dominic, Niall, Peter, Phil, Reagan, Robert, Russ, Scott, Sean, Bardane. Thank you to everybody and to new patrons who have joined the ranks of our citadel here. I'm sure you guys have caught other episodes of Superlative February, but just to give you the brief synopsis, we sent out a survey. It was a way for us at Card Talk to honor the game and this current ending that it has, and we couldn't think of a better way to honor that ending by allowing you to give us feedback about the game and what the best and the worst of the game are. And this is kind of the episode that I figured people would want to hear the most, because it has to do, we're going to do the lore events and attachments like Ted said, but we are also going to talk about the LOTR saga and the Hobbit saga. Like, this is going to be the saga episode too. So save the best for last, and the real best for last, because Monday's episode is going to be amazing. But 130 respondents. I think I got it all. Ted, did I miss anything about what we're doing here?
Nope, you nailed it. Let's dig in.
Okay, so Ted, I think that we should start talking about either attachments or events in the lore sphere. So please choose from the list of events, or should we do events first? Which one? Events or events?
Let's do events.
That's great. That's great. See how I guided you right into the correct answer?
Are you giving me the choice of events or events?
Yes, I'm giving you that choice. You get to pick. We're saving attachments because the most interesting results of the survey come from the attachments. So I want to save that for after we do events. So, okay. So here's the funny thing. And we usually do this for some of the questions that I asked that weren't very good. Because I'm a horrible question writer, apparently. But in terms of lore events, there was not a single lore event that was somebody's favorite with more than 4 votes.
Oh, okay.
So it was all over the place. So Ted...
It's a lot of varied responses.
Yes, it was such a varied responses. So the question becomes, like, is this in line with lore? Like, does this make sense that this is the first time that this has happened and it's in the lore sphere? Like, does that compute in the computer banks?
The lore events are not all clear cut. They all serve, they all are in their own categories of things that they do, whether they draw you cards, interact with locations, do something with enemies or damage with enemies. And those are all best against different scenarios. So I could see where the spread is much wider for this sphere.
Yeah. And I think that it's just like lore. I've been saying it all this week, but lore is so tricksy, right? Like, it just does a lot of tricksy different things. You know, it's got card draw and healing and scrying. And I mean, the Great Hunt is a lore event, and it's like that could just blow up anything. You know, like, there's a lot of neat things that go on in lore. So I think that speaks to what lore is, that there's not an event that, when I ask people what their favorite is, it wasn't just like the one. Of course, I will say that Daron's Runes, was...
I was going to say, if there was one single event that I would guess is best voted, I would say Daron's Runes.
Right.
But you're telling me that didn't get any more votes than...
I mean, okay, so let me actually count them up. It got 7 votes, so I apologize.
Okay.
The problem,
but the margin of victory is incredibly slim.
Yeah, like, it's not like it ran away with it, like people...
Right.
Because there's so many things, like Word of Command, Heed the Dream, Deep Knowledge, Expecting Mischief, Out of the Wild, Gildor's Council, Drinking Song, The Tree People, like just all these different events, The Great Hunt, Mithrandir's Advice, Rumor from the Earth. Like there's just so many different options for people to pick that there wasn't any clear cut like favorite card. There's just so many cards that are so fun to play with and so much people's favorites that it didn't really, like it just, and I think that's kind of matches up with what lore does.
Yeah, it makes complete sense to me. The scattered survey results.
Right. Okay, but when you go to best, guess what? There's some clear-cut favorites, so go ahead.
Okay. Well, I think for best, it's gonna. So Daeron's Runes, I feel like is going to be up there for best.
Daeron's Runes was by far the clear-cut best card. Okay. 53. I mean, I don't know if it is the best in lore, but the community voted it the best. Right? 53 people said Daeron's Runes was the best.
Okay,
card.
so before we were discussing people's favorites was so widespread.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So what else is on the list? I'll tell you there's another card that's at 8 and then it goes down to 6. So it's like Daeron's Runes is the one. But what's next? What's 2 and 3 on the list?
Ooh, there are some really good ones. I will say Gildor's Council.
Nope. Not on the list.
Ooh, wow. I guess it's really strong, even though it's 3 resources is a lot.
I know.
Okay, I will.
But I will say Gildor's Council is useless playing solo. Like, I look at Gildor's Council all the time. I'm like, well, I'm not playing it. Oh, because I can't play it solo.
True. Yeah.
So.
All right, I'm going to go with Heed the Dream.
Nope, not on the list.
Not on the list. Oh, it's bonkers good.
I know, Heed the Dream is really good. We talked about it when we talked about Leadership Denethor. You can get Heed the Dream. You can make the kicker activate right first turn.
Okay.
It's good.
Farsighted, I think, is also really strong.
Farsighted is really strong, and it's not on the list.
Okay.
But I guess this goes to show that lore, when you talk about the best and lore being in the best, is that people use it for card draw. And so Daeron's Runes is a card draw, card cycling, thing, and then Deep Knowledge was number 2.
Oh yeah, even though it is doomed, like giving everybody cards for no resources.
Yep.
It's strong.
Yep. And then the last one was Drinking Song. People just
actually, cards. Yep, that one. Those are all in the same vein. They're all 0 cost lore cards, lore events that draw you cards in some fashion.
Right. That cycle and draw. Like. Deep Knowledge just draws, but Daeron's Runes cycles and Drinking Song cycles, so it's good. So, I can't argue with that, but they're all the same type of card, right? For whatever events were people's favorites, all over the place. People doing all over, crazy things.
I would have thrown my favorite is Strider's Path. I love that card.
Right. Like it's just, it became laser focused on card draw when people were asked what their best was. So it's kind of interesting that all works itself out. So when we get up to talking about attachments, this is so crazy. It's so crazy. It's so much fun, right? So there was 2 attachments in lore.
Dave, this is a serious show about a serious game. We will not have any fun going forward. Okay. If you've been having fun, that's been maybe a miscommunication on my part.
Okay, Tedrick. There are two attachments that are the best.
Dark Knowledge.
Please name 2 attachments. Dark Knowledge. Did you really say Dark Knowledge? Radagast Cunning.
We can discuss that. Okay, so
is that like? Were you being serious about Dark Knowledge?
Oh no, not being on favorites.
Okay.
No.
So
okay,
best.
We're doing favorites first.
No, we're doing best attachments. There was 2 that Burning Brand number 1.
Burning Brand was bonkers before the errata, and even though it got nerfed, it's still bonkers good.
I know, and it's so funny because some people like me, when I think of Burning Brand, I'm like, oh, it used to be so good, and now it's just it's not what it
Nope, still
was,
good.
but it's still good.
Even though it's restricted and costs you 2, it guarantees cancel the shadow every single round. Or, I mean,
Yeah.
it can right. Its effect can if you get one, but it's guaranteed you have the ability and to cancel a shadow.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good.
Yep, really good. And what's the second best?
Probably Ashfaloth.
That's second best, definitely. Asphalloth, I feel like just completely changed how locations had to be cost for the travel cost, or not travel cost, but quest points. Like Asphalloth can just nuke a location all by himself. If you want to know how good Asphalloth is, play it in the Mirkwood cycle, and then you'll be like, oh, it's really good.
Yeah, no, that effect had to be considered, I think, when future designers were making newer locations.
Yep. So, Ted, this is the interesting thing. Okay.
We're talking favorite lore
attachments.
attachments.
Favorite lore attachments. Okay. And so 130 people were asked. The top 6 answers are on the board.
Okay.
Okay.
But you have a favorite lore attachment before we start?
Do I have a favorite lore attachment?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going through lore attachments.
You have
I do
right
have
in front of you.
I do have a favorite lore attachment actually.
Okay.
But I'm not going to yeah, I'll tell you after because
okay.
I don't,
okay. All right.
So here's the funny thing. Well, we'll just go through. So favorite lore attachments, top 6 answers are on the board. Go ahead. What do you got?
Okay. Elfstone.
No. Not on the list.
Fast
Hitch. My favorite lore attachment. It's number 3 on the list.
Is Fast Hitch, of course.
Fast
Hitch. Hobbits.
So, guess what number? Can you guess what 1 and 2 are?
Well, let's see here. I'm trying not to let my own favorites get in the way because I have 2 favorites from this list. So, well, they're probably the same. Is it Ashfaloth?
Asphalloth is number 2.
And there's a good chance.
Go ahead, say it. Say what you think you're saying. This is. Don't build up the stress. Say.
I'm trying to build.
Nope. You said the best. Go ahead. What?
Burning Brand.
Burning Brand is number 4 on the list.
Oh.
There's a number 1 favorite card that didn't make it on the best attachments list.
Really? Okay. All right.
And
okay.
it's crazy.
I'm gonna
That's what. This is why it's so crazy. Like, while you're looking, I'll just talk about this. So, like, it was pretty obvious in all the other surveys that we did that the best attachments were also going to rank as people's favorite. And I don't think that there was anyone where the best attachments weren't number one on the list of favorite attachments. But finally, in our last show, like, we get a card, and I will say that the card that I'm looking at is pretty good, in terms of best. It's not a Burning Brand or an Asphalloth, but it's pretty good. But that it became more people's favorites than the best cards. And I think that's crazy. That is crazy in terms of what we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ted?
Okay, so this is the big upset final review.
I know. It's the upset.
Okay. Ranger Spikes.
Yes! That is it.
Holy crap, really?
Yes! Ranger Spikes.
I named it because I have 2 favorite lore attachments, and Ranger Spikes is one of them. Probably my second favorite. I have one more that I'd like more than Ranger Spikes. That is really interesting, the fact that I got that right, because Ranger Spikes it's a fun card. You put it into the staging area, and an enemy that falls into it gets stuck there. They don't make engagement checks, and they get -2 threat on top of it. So it fuels, it's part of the trap archetype. It helps you with hero lore Fairmere, but I think it was the first. Oh, it's not the first trap to come out because that was Forest Snare. But I think it was the first trap to come out since then, and it made a big impact on the game.
So Ted, all of those points are right on, and I appreciate your love for Ranger Spikes. Can you name the last two on the list of 6?
I'm just gonna name my other favorite. I want to say Dunedain Pipe.
No, it did. People did talk about Dunedain Pipe. But the last 2 on the list are...
Give us the big reveal.
Glamdring and Forest Snare.
Oh,
Guarded card made it on the list. I think that's one of the only guarded cards that made it on the list of favorite attachments.
It's yeah. I mean, 2 attack and drawing a card, like both those effects are awesome as far as guarded cards go.
Right.
Like you need attack to kill things, and then you need cards, and there's gonna be enemies, so all of it makes sense.
Yep. And Forest Snare, I always think, is just because people love the core set, or may have answered because of the core set. And the Forest Snare is good tech for the Hill Troll. So.
Yeah. Certain big enemies later on became immune to attachments, but Forest Snare is a good strategy still for a lot of other scenarios where you just get some big enemies.
Right.
Also helps fuel Dunedain decks too. A lot of players will Forest Snare an enemy in front of them, so it triggers their Halberad, triggers their Marthiel, and those types of things.
Like all those other things that are going on, yeah. So it's also a good tech for Tom Cotton decks. Because you want to stay engaged to keep the...
So his first half of his ability, which... to play Hobbits without a resource match, right? That would trigger.
Right. Right. Exactly. So it's always fun. So Ted, here's the thing. Let's get into the last couple of other questions that I asked.
The miscellaneous final categories.
Yeah, the miscellaneous final categories. So the one final category that I asked that I will... what do I want to say? That I'll kind of keep. We'll keep the Saga stuff to the end. But I said to people, what if you could change one rule of the game? What would it be? Okay, and so that's kind of an interesting question.
That is. That's like an essay question.
Right, and so. So again, responses were all over the place. So I'll just ask you: what if you could change one rule of the game? What would that rule be? I know what mine would be. Like kind of right off the, not that it. I don't think it would change the game that much, but.
Oh, I like a lot of the rules as they're written. It's more so like how individual cards and their intention interact with the rules. So,
and that's what a lot of people were saying. They were like, "There's these crazy things going on that." Like let me read a couple of examples here.
Sure.
So, combat before questing. Neutral not being a sphere. Right?
Like neutral not being a sphere.
The threat elimination rules. Hybrid heroes. So, like, to make deck building a little bit easier. Like, I guess heroes from more than one sphere. Let me go down.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was something... we kind of touched on that, I think, in one of the other episodes.
Yeah, we did talk about that, right? Putting player card setup back at step 3 instead of step 7. Like, things like that. Like, things that are going on there. So, I actually like player card setup at step 7 instead of step 3, so That's
Yeah, that's became a whole hot thing with Fortress of Nirn,
right.
right? The way that ruling is, player setup is very, very last, so it doesn't always work against that scenario.
Right. So is there anything that you can think of that would fall into that?
Yeah, there's no really like single rule. I think combat engagement is fine. Questing and the penalty for questing is fine. Same thing. The action windows, I feel like, are in their appropriate places. It's more of like just single card clarifications and the way they interact with the rules. The most common ones we talk about are Radagast Staff and Elrond Hero. If Elrond, I think, should be able to play 0 cost allies
Right.
from any sphere, even if you don't have another hero from that sphere. So, for example, if you have all lore heroes, you should still be able to play like a 0 cost if you reduced an ally to somehow be 0. We see that with Radagast Staff, and I think it's just how they interact with the rules more so than the rule itself.
Right. I think my thing is that I would allow you to attack an enemy more than one time.
Yeah, the limitations on attack rule.
Yeah, like you can only attack an enemy one time, and the reason why is because I think it would create many more opportunities for choices in the game than it would, because you can ready, and so if you can ready a hero or an ally, whatever, if you can ready somebody and then attack whatever again, then that would be, well, do you want to attack this guy again and kill it, or do you want to attack this guy again and kill it, or do you want to attack a new person? So that would be one thing. Somebody came close to that and said that they thought it was interesting that attacks and defense were two different, succinctly different things.
That always gets new players.
Right.
It's the number one thing when I teach the game. People are like, "Oh, okay. I defend, so I take damage, and then I attack back." And I'm like, "Nope, not how it works."
Right. And so I think that's a holdover from the Magic the Gathering stuff. People.
A lot of other card games are an exchange. In this game, it's not.
Right. So it's kind of interesting. An interesting thing there, but. Well, let's have the big reveal here. I wish that I could do this a little bit better, but here's the thing. I asked people how they felt about the sagas. Okay, so the question is, how do you feel about the Hobbit saga? The question was yay, meh, or boo. So, Ted, how many boos did I get for the Hobbit saga?
7.
I got 6 boos for the Hobbit
I was
saga.
one off.
Yes, you were. So, it's kind of funny,
okay.
Right? Let me double check that because I was having a technological issue while we were doing that.
Yes.
So that's why there was a little bit of hesitation there. But let's see. Hobbit sagas. Oh, you were right. 7 boos for the Hobbit saga.
Okay, that's amazing. Again, I have not actually seen these results. David is sharing with me for the first time as the listeners are hearing it.
Right. Okay. And I, of course, asked what everybody's favorite Hobbit saga scenario was. And Ted, by far and away, what is everybody's most favorite?
By far and away, I'm going to say Air Break of Day.
Nope.
Oh, but come on, that's so fun to say, dude.
I know. It's the Battle of 5 Armies.
Wow, I would not have guessed.
Yeah, I'm. I again, because it's the Hobbit, I feel like I have a little more ear to the community, and it just feels like whenever people talk about like The Hobbit, they always talk about how good the Battle of Five Armies is. And I'm not going to spoil anything, not because I don't want, just because. But Battle of Five Armies is definitely a very good scenario. It's super well balanced, and it's just a lot of fun, and it's very, like, it's just perfect.
Yeah, I've attempted a Nightmare, but I've yet to defeat it at this current time.
Oh, that's funny. And so what's the least favorite Hobbit saga?
Probably the one where you gotta fight Smaug.
Oh, really? The Lonely Mountain?
The Lonely Mountain, I think, is the one.
Yeah, which is funny that you say that, but no, that's in the middle of the pack.
Okay. Then maybe the Riddle Quest.
Yeah, the Riddle Quest is by far and away.
Yeah,
so
people, it's such a totally different mechanic than the rest of the game. Right? Where you're like naming costs and spheres.
I know. It's so different. Like you said, it's just so different. And like you almost have to build a deck just to play that one. And I don't like
Yeah. Yep.
But it's interesting because when I asked people what their favorite Hobbit saga was, the one with the least amount of votes was not the riddle mechanic, Dungeons, Deeps, and Caverns Dim. The least favorite, the one that got the least votes for being somebody's favorite was Flies and Spiders, which is the one with the poison mechanic and the venom mechanic and things like that.
Oh, that one's so fun though.
Yeah, but it was...
The venom is annoying.
It is annoying. Okay. So you ready?
Yep.
Let's keep going. We
highest tier patrons call me Ready Teddy.
Yeah.
And I won't even get mad.
Don't even get mad. That's a stipulation. You can't get mad. So now the question is, how do you feel about the Lord of the Rings saga? Again, the questions are yay, meh, and boo.
I'm going to say an overwhelmingly large majority is going to say yay.
So how many said boo?
I'm going to go with 3 people.
No, 1. I am shocked that anybody said boo. I'm surprised that, like, because it's such a cornerstone of the game and it matches up with the lore of the game. Like, I feel like more than any other game, people get into this because of the lore. And so for somebody, like, to vehemently oppose the, like, I don't know, like, I guess I can understand it. Like, maybe they just want just only the books to be their experience with the Lord of the Rings. But I feel like if you're going to get this game, you're playing you're playing the saga. Like, that's part of what you really want to do, right?
Yeah, I could see the reason I said 3 is because I could see some people, even though they're very well designed, they are very fun, they're difficult. There's certain mechanics to them where you're like, oh, all these condition attachments, so I have to run the cards that counter condition attachments. And if you don't do that, they're even more difficult. So I could see some people, because of that, just being like, oh, it's not my thing because I want to craft my own adventures in Middle-earth, not follow the story.
Right. Yeah. How many people said meh? Like, that's okay.
Maybe like 20.
6.
Okay. Good. They're more well regarded than I'm barely giving credit for, which is great.
Yeah. And so 94% of the people were like, I love the Lord of the Rings saga, which I think is in line. You know, the Hobbit saga was a little less, but
at least
many of the community really loves it.
At least to the designers, Caleb's credits, he appropriately parted the Hobbit story into 2 deluxe boxes and didn't try to stretch it out into 3 unnecessary deluxe boxes just to try to boost sales and make a terrible product amongst doing that.
You so funny. So then the questions become, Ted, here they are. What's your favorite and least favorite scenarios in the Lord of the Rings saga. I mean, you're playing it now through Grant, and I mean, I don't know, I feel like you've done a lot of it, so...
I have done a significant portion. I will fully reveal that I have not done the final half of the final scenario, which is whatever one where you throw the ring in.
Oh, right.
I did the Black Gate, and then I was going to simultaneously do a playthrough. I counted the rounds for Black Gate and to see how long the Mount Doom scenario takes, and so I can't actually. I have to exclude that one. But as far as favorite and least favorite go, otherwise, I think Helm's Deep. Ah, man, Helm's Deep is. I can't decide if I love it or I hate it because they really nailed the design of it, and it's so infuriating.
Right.
At the same time, so I really, really enjoy Helm's Deep because of that. It's totally different with this defense mechanic. So that's, I think, my favorite.
Yeah.
And
it turns everything on its head, right?
Yeah. And my least favorite one, there's one that Grant and I recently did where you trudge through the marshes in, I think, Land of Shadow.
Right. It's the Dead Marshes.
The Dead Marshes. Right. Yeah. And that one, it had a new keyword in it. It had mire, but it just isn't anything too exciting. It's like, yep, you're walking through the marshes and the dead things come out and, don't sink in the marshes.
Right. I will say that Helm's Deep was the community's favorite. Not by a ton, but by enough. 26 people said that it was their favorite. So, and then, let's see. I'm just trying to see what was next here.
Sure.
Ringo South was there, and the Battle of the Pelennor Field was there.
Oh, Pelennor Fields was really good.
Yeah.
Or I should say is really good.
Right. And I mean, Caleb's gone on record saying that he really likes the way that is. And John from Cardboard of the Rings, he says that that's his favorite too. So, like, there's just a lot of good stuff going on there.
Yeah. Dave, you've played through some Saga, most Saga.
So yeah, so the thing with me and the Saga is that I got into the game and I'm playing the Saga with a buddy of mine, and then the pandemic we were doing it live, and so we've gotten through 15 of the 18 quests. Or we didn't play Fog on the Barrow Downs or the Old Forest, but now I'm playing, like, I've taken it upon 2021 to just play the heck out of the Saga all the time, and so, like, I've played everything. We still haven't gotten, my friend and I still haven't gotten to the last 3 quests, so we still need to do the last 3. So I haven't played those 3 quests, but I have played all the other Saga quests, and I this is gonna sound silly, but I love the first one, Shadow of the Past, like, just racing to Buckleberry Ferry and taking my hobbits and doing that. Like, I love the theme of that, hiding against the Black Riders with Sam.
I do. I haven't done it yet. Did you play it? So have you gone back to replay that? Have you done Bond of Friendship with that scenario?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now.
I really want to do that. So because you start with Bag End as the active location, and when you complete it, you get 1 card for each Hobbit hero you have.
Right.
So that's 5 cards.
Right.
If you have 4 Hobbit heroes and Frodo.
Well, and then you play Frodo's Intuition, which allows you to draw a card for every Hobbit hero and get +1 willpower for each.
Yeah.
Like,
so
it's crazy.
Using
it's
all
so
5
much fun.
of your heroes.
Yeah. I mean, you can only play 2. You can only play with 2 of them in your deck because it's the Bond of Friendship.
Oh, yeah, okay. So that's actually really important to note about the Bond of Friendship contract is those you can play 40 cards, 10 of each that belong to the normal spheres, but those other 10 cards could be fellowship events,
right,
and not neutral,
right,
if you're playing Saga.
Correct. There is one time when you get the 4 weapon armor, Glamdring, Sting, Mithril Shirt, and Anduril, where your deck goes up to 53 cards, because the setup for that, you take your 50 card deck, do whatever, and then the setup says put one of them in your hand and put the other 3 in your deck. So you get 53 cards because of the setup of the game. But anyways, it's interesting to go through. It kind of dilutes your deck down, but it is what it is. So what about your least favorite? It's so funny that the person who didn't like their response was, I will never play the Saga scenarios. It's so funny. Apparently they just really didn't want to play it. So what's your least favorite?
We just discussed that, right? I said the Dead Marshes.
Oh, the Dead Marshes. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And for me, I couldn't stand like the Uruk-hai. I just felt like it was very thematic. I just couldn't ever win. We just were having such a hard time trying to beat it.
What's interesting, and I read this over and checked it over, and someone can feel free to correct me, but so I've played Uruk-hai on standard mode, and it's much harder because you only play with your 2 heroes. One of them is captured. But Grant and I, when we played through the Uruk-hai in the campaign mode version, your captives are other heroes that are part of the story. So you actually get to play with all 3 of your heroes.
Right.
So the scenario is like easier and you get to change heroes at that point. So it's much easier when you play it on campaign mode.
Right. It's a little, yeah, and you have an extra hero. Well, I guess you have an extra hero no matter what, but
yeah.
It's funny. Well, I mean, this is it. This is the wrap up of Superlative February. I mean, we've gone through all the spheres. We've gone through deck building. We've gone through cards. We've gone through, scenarios and, mechanics.
We've
done
laughs.
We've laughed and
spent
cried.
Pain and cried.
Right. So, but,
we've had Grant and no Grant, ups and downs.
Right. It's just been an amazing month. And, it's a lot of fun to talk about all this stuff, right?
Well, it's a little not very known secret about me. I love talking about cards. So I've really enjoyed this series. We had a lot of really great responses, and we hope everyone has enjoyed listening to the survey responses and getting a feel for the great community that we have and how they think and interpret some of the cards in the card pool. Essentially, It's been awesome.
Yep. And Ted, you wrapped up the show great. The only thing I will add to that is, one of the reasons why we started this podcast was just to get the community talking about cards, whether it was good cards or bad cards or middle of the road cards or whatever cards. And I feel like this month has kind of embodied what we try to do at the podcast. So I'm thankful that the community listens, and I'm thankful that I have a group of people at Card Talk that want to help me do what it is I do here. So, Ted, thank you. Grant, wherever you are, thank you too. So, other than that, we'll catch you next time on Card Talk, and make sure you tune in on Monday for our +1 Superlative February show. Have a great day, everybody.
Do you love the content? Here's what you can do to stay connected. Become a patron. The money collected through Patreon goes into keeping the lights on here at the podcast. We love our patrons, and you can join at many different levels. Visit patreon.com/cardtalk2018. You can subscribe to us, whether you're watching our YouTube channel or you're listening to us in your favorite podcatcher. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications of all our new episodes. Didn't know we were an audio podcast? Find us by searching Card Talk to get access to our 120 plus regular episodes. Didn't know we were a video channel? Find us by searching Card Talk LOTR LCG on YouTube And there you can find not only our regular episodes, but you can find our bonus playthroughs and other content related to the game. Want to get a hold of Ted, Grant, or myself? Feel free to email the podcast at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.